have you got a chauffeur?
Yeah.
What kind of a car have you got?
Oh, I don't got a car. I just got a chauffeur.
Well, maybe I'm crazy, but when you have a chauffeur, aren't you supposed to have a car?
Well, I had one. But you see, it cost too much money to keep a car on the chauffeur, so I sold the car.
Well, that shows you how little I know. I would have kept the car and sold the chauffeur.
That's no good. I got to have a chauffeur to take me to work in the morning.
Well, if you've got no car, how can he take you to work?
He don't have to take me to work. I know got a job.
It's the Marx Brothers Council Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. This is Bob Cassell, and I think we have a good one for you today. But before I'm proven wrong, let's meet the rest of the crew. First, joining us from Washington Heights, he's currently starring in 400 Years in Manhattan, and is the only man ever banned from the M&M store. Here's Noah Diamond.
Thank you, Bob. I might have known you'd bring that up.
Also joining us is an accomplished author, husband, and Facebook group administrator, who is best known for mistaking Kenny Baker for a plate of soggy onion rings. Let's welcome Matthew Coniam.
Hello, I am Matthew Coniam, and I like to hear the little bell ring.
So, guys, before we proceed, I thought maybe we try something new here. Maybe this will become a regular thing. You know, we're always discussing the Marxes, talking about them on the Facebook page, thinking about them in the shower. And I thought it would be cool if we all discussed the latest revelation or discovery we've come across since the last time we spoke. So why don't we go around the table? Matthew, we'll start with you.
I had an interesting conversation with a listener to this podcast whose name is Pablo Manzano. And he emailed to me something which I'm ashamed to admit I'd not seen before, which was the shooting script of Horse Feathers. And it's interesting stuff. As you would imagine, there are lots of jokes and bits and pieces there that didn't make it into the finished film. The character of Peggy, Zeppo's girlfriend, is more prominent. But three interesting things that struck me in particular. The burning building finale is there in all its glory, and the very, very end of the film has this description: Harpo chases girl into burning building, followed by Chico and Groucho. They all emerge from the other side of building in blackface. So that's one bullet we dodged. A big surprise, a very unusual joke in the opening scene when Zeppo and Groucho first converse. Zeppo was to have said, "Dad, let me congratulate you. You did that with gusto." To which Groucho was going to reply, "Gusto, Harpo, Chico, that must be a fifth Marx brother." Very strange line. But best of all, the script confirms that I am right, and that football player is called McCarthy. So all you advocates for McHardy or McCarty, in your face.
But no clue about the ironing scene?
No ironing scene. Sadly not. No ironing scene.
Okay.
You know, that gusto joke is a little reminiscent of something that I think was in the stage version of Coconuts, where there's a reference to the Marx Brothers being Spaniards.
Oh, yes,
but it actually, the line called for Groucho to mention the Marx Brothers by name in the show.
So, Noah, what do you got for us?
Well, I have been racking my brain to come up with a real revelation about the Marx Brothers themselves that has come to me in the months since we recorded our last episode. I do have a couple of things that are specific to the Why a Duck scene that I might save for when we discuss it. But if you'll forgive me for being coy, I did recently, as you pointed out in your intro, Bob, I've been for the last several weeks and months involved in a big theater project that is not a Marx Brothers project, although it does have an occasional moment of Marxism in it. And while working on this, it's expanded my view of what can be done with the Marx Brothers in the theater, and I hope to have more to say about this in the not too distant future. But I think I have some new ideas about Marx Brothers projects to come.
Oh, that's going to put my revelation to shame. Well, this whole section came about by just within the last hour or so. We came across a posting on our Facebook group where Scott Alexander points out that he sees during one of the stills for Night in Casablanca that it looks like Harpo is wearing an actual wig. And though it's not certain, it sure looks a lot more like a wig than many of the other shots that we've seen of him. And, thinking about it and poking around the internet, looking at other stills, I get the impression that maybe Harpo did throw on a wig for some of the photo sessions. And it was a less extensive wig that would match the less extensive puff of hair that he was using during the film. So it does match somewhat in that it's not real long and covering his ears. But I think we may be onto something. Or it might just be a big pile of nothing, like most of what Scott posts.
Well, yeah, it certainly looks like that, doesn't it? I mean, it's interesting because not a pile of nothing. No, it looks like it is a more traditional wig. It's odd because I always thought that still sessions were done right after they'd finished shooting the scenes. But I guess it's possible that he might have gone off, had that weird fluffy piece, unpinned, and then went back for the stills in a more easy to slip on one, possibly.
Yeah, so this is a subject for further investigation for people with nothing else to do in their lives. Okay, so.
Was it Vico Savanto who was recently
arrested?
Suggesting that. No, he was saying recently that he always assumed Groucho was wearing a toupee in Coconuts and Animal Crackers. Which had never occurred to me. And I looking at the footage recently, I have to say I don't see it, but it's possible. If that's the case, then I don't trust any hair in any of the movies.
Yes. I mean, it's certainly very thin, isn't it? Particularly in Coconuts, where it's parted in the middle and scraped down. And it looks like my hair, for God's sake. Yeah.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, but yeah.
All right, so let's forge ahead. So this month we're going to take it somewhat easy and only look at half of the Marx Brothers. At first, we kicked around discussing Harpo and Zeppo, but figured that wouldn't make much of a show. So we finally hit on Groucho and Chico, and we'll focus on them and how they worked as sort of a team within the team. On a few occasions, Groucho and Chico did attempt to forge a radio career as a self-contained team. And while none of those series was a huge success, they did provide some great material, including some that was recycled for their films, especially Duck Soup. We'll dive into their radio career much more in a future episode. So today we're going to focus on the Groucho Chico movie scenes and do what we do best, wring all the humor out of them by dissecting them to death. So. But don't despair, we're also going to play the scenes for you. So you're guaranteed at least a little bit of entertainment today. So to get us started, Noah, why don't we go to you, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about the background of how Groucho and Chico came to be a team within the team.
It is one of those things that I think is properly credited to George S. Kaufman when he wrote Coconuts. I'm on record a lot of taking credit away from Kaufman, things that have been often talked about as though they happened for the first time in Coconuts and Animal Crackers. And there's my book saying, well, no, that was in I'll Say She Is Too, or even before I'll Say She Is. But in this case, not just the Groucho Chico duologues, but the idea that the Marx Brothers can be broken up into several kind of sub-comedy teams. And that starting with Coconuts, that is what most of the content is. You don't often get all four or all three brothers together functioning as a unit. We talk about Monkey Business being so exceptional because it does that. And I think that is largely Kaufman's innovation, building comedy scenes around Harpo and Chico as a duo, Groucho and Chico as a duo, Groucho and Margaret Dumont, and as we know, rarely, and Groucho and Zeppo. And now some of that does go back to before Kaufman. In Home Again, in vaudeville, Harpo and Chico, arrive together and are kind of a unit. And Gummo played Groucho's son, which is a suggestion of what happens to Zeppo in Horse Feathers. So you did have this kind of two duos approach to the casting. And yet the idea that you'd have a whole comedy routine built around only two of the brothers, I think that becomes codified only with Coconuts. In the original I'll Say She Is, the closest we ever get to a Groucho Chico scene is the courtroom scene, which has some of the characteristics of the Groucho Chico encounters in the movies. But it can't really be said to be one of them because I think one of the things that distinguishes these scenes is Groucho and Chico are the only two important characters in them. You might have a line from the guy behind in the windows at the racetrack or something, but basically they're the only two characters, and that can't be said for the courtroom scene. So it is almost a convention that begins with the movies in that it begins with coconuts.
So why don't we dive into these? And we're going to go through them pretty much all the films that we can find a representative Groucho Chico scene. And at the end, we'll give our rankings and tell you what our favorite ones are. So we're going to start with coconuts. And before we play the scene, Matthew, why don't you give a little synopsis? Tell us where we are in the story, what's going on, to set it up.
Yes, okay. By this point, Hamlet now knows for certain that his father has been murdered by his uncle, and so he's hiding. No, hang on, wrong play. No, there's going to be an auction, isn't there? Groucho is a crooked seller of land in the Florida land boom, and there's going to be a big auction, and he wants to hire Chico to get the auction. Moving by bidding up, getting everybody else to bid up, and he's for some reason, I don't know why. Why is he showing him a plan why is he showing him a map? I don't even remember.
Yeah, that's one of my big issues with this, is that Groucho goes into a lot more detail than he has any need to. And when he knows that Chico is not going to understand it.
Come over here, I want to see you. Now listen to me, I'm not going to have that red-headed fella running around in the lobby. If you want to keep him up in your room, you'll have to keep him in a trap.
You can't catch him.
Who is he?
It's my partner, but he don't speak.
Oh, that's your silent partner. Well, anyhow, you wired me about some property. I've thought it over. Now, I can let you have 3 lots watering the front, or I can let you have 3 lots fronting the water. Now, these lots cost me $9,000, and I'm going to let you have them for $15,000 because I like you.
I don't buy nothing.
What?
I no got no money.
You got no money?
I no got 1 cent.
How you going to pay for your room?
That's your lookout.
Oh, you're just an idle rumor.
Well, you see, we come here to make money. I read the paper and say big boom in Florida, so we come. We're a couple of big booms, too.
Well, I'll show you how you can make some real money. I'm going to hold an auction in a little while in Coconut Manor. You know what an auction is, eh?
Yeah, I come from Italy on the Atlantic auction.
Well, let's go ahead as if nothing happened. I say I'm holding an auction in Coconut Manor, and when the crowd gathers around, I want you to mingle with them. Don't pick their pockets, just mingle with them.
I'll find time for both.
Well, maybe we can cut out the auction. Here's what I mean. If somebody says $100, you say 2. Somebody says 2, you say 3.
It's bid up.
That's right. Now, if nobody says anything, then you start it off.
Yeah, how am I going to know when they don't say nothing?
Well, they'll probably notify you. You fool. If they don't say anything, you'll hear them, won't you?
Well, maybe I don't listen.
Well, don't tell them. Now then, if we're successful in disposing these lots, I'll see that you get a nice commission.
And how about some money?
Well, you can have your choice. Now, in arranging these lots, of course, we use blueprints. You know what a blueprint is, eh?
Yeah, it's oysters.
How is it you never got double pneumonia?
I go around by myself.
You know what a lot is?
Yeah, it's too much.
I don't mean a whole lot, just a little lot with nothing on it.
Anytime you got it too much, you got a whole lot. Look, I explain it to you. Sometimes you don't got enough, it's too much, you got a whole lot. Sometimes you got a little bit. You don't think it's enough. Somebody else maybe think it's too much, it's a whole lot too. Now, it's a whole lot, it's too much, it's a whole lot, the same thing.
The next time I see you, remind me not to talk to you, will you?
All right, maybe
Come over here, Aunt McNally, and I'll explain this thing to you. Now, look, this is a map and diagram of the whole coconut section. This whole area is within a radius of approximately 3/4 of a mile. Radius. Is there a remote possibility that you know what radius means?
It's a WJZ.
Well, I walked right into that one. It's going to be a cinch explaining the rest of this thing to you. I can see that.
I catch on quick.
That's a rodeo you're thinking of. Look, Einstein, here's Coconut Manor. No matter what you say, this is Coconut Manor. Here's Coconut Manor. Here's Coconut Heights. That's the swamp. And right over here where the road forks, that's Coconut Junction.
So where you got Coconut Custom?
All right, that's on one of the forks. You probably eat with your knife, so you won't have to worry about that. Now, here is the main road leading out of Coconut Manor. That's the road I wish you were on. Now, over here, on this site, we're going to build an eye and ear hospital. This is going to be a site for sore eyes. You understand?
That's fine.
Now, right over here, this is the residential section.
Oh, the people live there,
No, that's the stockyards. Now, all along here, this is the riverfront. And all along the river, All along the river, those are all levees.
That's the Jewish neighborhood?
Well, we'll pass over that. You're a peach, boy. Now, here is a little peninsula, and here is a viaduct leading over to the mainland.
Viaduct.
I'm all right. How are you? I say here is a little peninsula, and here is a viaduct leading over to the mainland.
All right, viaduct.
I'm not playing Ask Me Another. I say that's a viaduct.
All right, viaduct. It's what that's viaduct. Why no chicken?
I don't know why I know chicken. I'm a stranger here myself. All I know is that it's a viaduct. You try to cross over there in a chicken, and you'll find out viaduct.
I know go someplace.
It's deep water. That's viaduct. It's deep water.
That's viaduct.
Look, Rim. So, suppose you were out horseback riding and you came to that stream and you wanted to ford over. You couldn't make it. It's too deep.
Well, why do you want with a ford if you got a horse?
Well, I'm sorry the matter ever came up. All I know is that it's a viaduct.
Well, look, all right. I catch on to why a horse, so why a chicken, why this, why that. I don't catch on to why a dog.
Well, I was only fooling. I was only fooling. They're going to build a tunnel there in the morning. Now, is that clear to you?
Yes, everything except the wire dog.
Well, that's fine. Then we can go ahead with this thing. Now, look. I'm going to take you down and show you our cemetery. I've got a waiting list of 50 people at that cemetery just dying to get in, but I like you.
Yeah, you're my friend.
I like you, and I'm going to shove you in ahead of all of them.
I know you like.
I'm going to see that you get a steady position.
That's good.
And if I can arrange it, it'll be horizontal.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, remember, when the auction starts, if somebody says $100,
I say 200.
that's grand. Now, if somebody says 200,
I say 300.
that's great. Now, you know how to get down there?
No, it's
Now, look,
strange.
River. You go down there, down that narrow path there, until you come to that little jungle there. You see it?
It's
where those thatch palms are.
Yes.
And then there's a little clearing there, a little clearing with a wire fence around it. With that, you see that wire fence there?
All right, the wire fence.
Oh, no. We're not going to go all through that again. You come along with me. You know?
And they walk off screen as if the camera wasn't allowed to follow them.
It's great that Groucho says, nearly calls him Ravelli twice. Hadn't really struck me before that he actually does that twice, and it's all gets left in. It's lovely.
I wonder how many times Groucho would had to have made the mistake before Florey yelled cut. 5, 7, what?
Yeah.
What's interesting about this, and I think about this whenever I watch the one from Animal Crackers and here, is that these were really written to be performed in front of a live audience. And they were used to the rhythms of doing it in front of a live audience, but here they're doing it in complete silence. Like, you compare it to, just for example, with the Who's On First scene that Abbott and Costello did, there's many, many recordings of them performing it on radio in front of a live audience, and it really comes to life. And then there is the one time where they did it in the film where it's basically not. It's just, it's sort of dry when it doesn't have the energy of the live audience. And I think, I really, as great as the scene is, I really think it would have been wonderful to hear it with an audience.
Yes, I mean there is a tiny bit of an audience there. You can hear the crew, so they're not actually playing to literal silence, but yes, they're not. It's certainly not to a packed house.
It's true. I mean, I agree with that observation about it, and yet my revelation about it, concentrating on the scene in preparation for this conversation, is how naturalistic the acting is in this scene, particularly on Chico's part. I mean, I think the performances in Coconuts tend to be slightly more subdued than they are in the films from Animal Crackers forward. Mm-hmm. And yet Chico, he does seem to be doing something different here. His characterization seems far more casual. He's playing dumb in a more sweet and honest kind of way than he did later. And all of his little sort of quasi-ad-libbed interjections are so funny when Groucho's saying, I like you, and I'm going to get you in ahead of him. And he's Chico's modestly laughing. Oh, I know you like me, There's a sweetness to him here. Not that there isn't later, but and it seems almost off the cuff. And yet, as you point out, Bob, this is a scene they had done, thousands of times.
And it's interesting too, isn't it, that the natural pauses are there, all those things that when we get to Night at the Opera, things that are kind of imposed in the editing presumably because they've done it on stage, it's there, it flows, it's very natural. There are gaps, there are pauses, and there are little bits of dialogue that don't matter. So they're already onto that. It's another big MGM innovation that they didn't really need, I think, particularly because they toured that scene. They've got it right, that the correct rhythm for an audience. But yes, I mean it is interesting. I was glad to hear what you said, actually, Noah, because it does feel like the prototype scene. I think I would be slightly disappointed if that was just the third or the second or the fifth thing like that they did. It's got everything in place to be the first one of those.
Yeah. And, not only that, it was developed in rehearsal. It's missing from the early stage scripts of Coconuts. Although the door is kind of wide open for it. There's some talk about the blueprints, I think. But, the scene apparently abetted by Kaufman, was developed in rehearsal. So Groucho and Chico had some ownership of it. And I guess the whole idea of the Groucho Chico encounter happened sort of by accident.
There's a misunderstanding going on here, but it's not because Chico is dumb. And unlike some of the later scenes, it's not like Chico is trying to put something over on Groucho or trying to sidetrack him in any way. It's just a misunderstanding, and it comes very naturally. And there's a nice rhythm that they get into where Groucho feeds Chico a line, and Chico does a funny line, and Groucho does a punchline on top of Chico's line, and then after that gives him another straight line.
Yeah.
So, so Groucho is being a comic and a straight man at the same time.
That's really true. Yeah, that's what he becomes in these Chico scenes, and it's
in the best ones. Later on, it becomes a lot less nuanced, and it's a straight man punchline, straight man punchline. Here, they go back and forth.
And Groucho tends to have lines about how pained he is by Chico's side of the conversation, which is a kind of sentiment Groucho never expresses with anyone else, but it works here.
And he does it with such heavy fatalism, doesn't he? There's in all these early ones. He just gets very depressed very quickly, and I love the line coming up in the auction when Chico. The very first time Chico shows that he's misunderstood and he's just going to... Groucho says, well, the auction is practically over. And it's right at the start of the scene, that line. It's great. And also, they're not afraid to ramble.
It's like, who are you, Groucho, to be exasperated with the troublemakers,
They're not afraid to ramble as well. The later ones, the MGM ones, are very, very tightly scripted, and it's line joke, line joke, line joke. Here, it's very conversational. It doesn't matter how much film is being eaten up. They're just enjoying it.
I love the Levy's Jewish line. I don't know how many more films they could have gotten away with that, but they got away with it here. I'm glad it got left in.
What do you guys think about watering the front and fronting the water? That is kind of backwards, isn't it?
It is, yes, but I prefer it that way. I think it's, I think because it makes it sound like he thinks both make sense, rather than it's just a joke about.
I love the sight for sore eyes. If I had to isolate one line as a favorite in this scene, the eye and ear hospital being a sight for sore eyes, that's just delicious.
I like that's the road I wish you were on, because it's so gratuitously nasty. He has no reason to.
Yes.
And Chico, God bless him, is never insulted, not in the least. Not at Paramount, not at MGM, never. That's one thing that stays consistent.
When I was a child, I had Gene Shalit's Anthology of Humor, and a lot of what's in that book are dialogues. And my siblings and I used to read those out loud, and those were my early classic comedy performances. And we used to read out loud from that book this Why a Duck scene, also the contract scene from A Night at the Opera, and also Who's on First, which you mentioned, Bob. And I think right away at that early age, the difference between the Marx Brothers and the rest of comedy was so clear from that comparison. Who's on First, of course, is ingenious and wonderful, and in performance, it can be just an absolute barn burner. But it was clear that in Who's on First, of course, Bud Abbott could just decide to convey this information another way. and make it less confusing for Costello, and the whole routine could be over in 10 seconds. But with the Marx Brothers, there's there's nothing that can be said to clarify this for Chico in an easy way. Like, there's no way out of this. This is fate, as you put it, Matthew. This is destiny. They have to have this conversation.
What's also particularly nice about this scene is that it's not totally extraneous. It sets up the next scene. Groucho does have something at stake here, but he doesn't seem particularly vested. He's more interested in having fun with Chico, going through the nonsense. He doesn't seem particularly concerned that Chico might misunderstand what's going on. But it's good that, like I said, it's good that it has a context.
Just as a side issue, to keep John Tefteller happy, I just it struck me today watching this in high definition. Two things that I hadn't noticed before. One is that Chico is wearing a dirty hat and has got a dirty lapel, a big dusty smudge on both. But also, what it becomes very, very clear looking at a cleaned up version is that Groucho is not the only one with painted eyebrows here, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chico was very heavily made up. Yeah, coconuts.
With very big,
and
dark,
the wig is a little more delightful too.
Remember, that costume was one that was developed for the stage version of Animal Crackers. It wasn't really developed for the film, so he might have just put on his stage makeup to do it for the film.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, this look was fairly new for Chico at the time.
Okay, why don't we move on to Animal Crackers, where we actually have two classic Groucho Chico scenes, one early in the film and one very late. Let's play the first one, which is one of the most iconic.
Say, I used to know a fellow looked exactly like you by the name of Emmanuel Ravelli. Are you his brother?
I'm Emmanuel Ravelli.
You're Emmanuel Ravelli?
I'm Emmanuel Ravelli.
Well, no wonder you look like him. But I still insist there is a resemblance.
Hey, he thinks I look alike.
Well, if you do, it's a tough break for both of you.
You are one of the musicians, but you were not due until tomorrow.
Couldn't come tomorrow. That's too quick.
Say, you're lucky they didn't come yesterday.
We were busy yesterday, but we charge just the same.
This is better than exploring. What do you fellas get an hour?
Oh, for playing, we get $10 an hour.
I see. What do you get for not playing?
$12 an hour.
Well, clip me off a piece of that.
Now, for rehearsing, we make special rate. That's $15 an hour.
That's for rehearsing?
That's for rehearsing.
And what do you get for not rehearsing?
You couldn't afford it. You see, if we don't rehearse, so we don't play. And if we don't play, that runs into money.
How much would you want to run into an open manhole?
Just the cover charge.
Well, drop in sometime.
Sewer.
Well, we clean that up pretty well.
Well, let's see how we stand.
Flat-footed.
Yesterday, we didn't come. You remember yesterday we didn't come?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, that's $300.
Yesterday you didn't come? That's $300.
Yeah, that's $300.
Well, that's reasonable. I can see that all right.
Now, today we did come. That's
$100 you owe us.
Hey, I bet I'm going to lose on the deal. Tomorrow we leave. That's worth about...
$1 million.
Yeah, that's all right for me, but I got a partner.
What? Partner?
It's amazing how all the extras keep a straight face in the background there. They don't crack a smile or anything.
Until Chico says he has a partner, at which point everyone reacts as though that is an astonishing revelation.
Although Maggie does smile a couple times there, so she's enjoying it.
Yeah, she's in a good mood in Animal Crackers.
She just doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Now, this one really, really is quite different than what we heard before, because here Chico is actually the aggressor trying to get away with something, is very clever. He really seems to be ahead of Groucho on this one instead of being on a different wavelength.
Yeah. And there's also a sort of self-conscious effort on both of their parts to top the other. They seem very aware of being comedians in this moment and just trying to top each other with jokes. The whole back and forth with, the cover charge and sewer. And, it's just the way friends hang out and try to make each other laugh. There's something very sweet about that. I also love, as you point out with Wyatt Duck, Groucho is both Chico's straight man and a comedian in his own right in these scenes. And, when Groucho says, what do you get for not rehearsing? That's already funny. It doesn't actually require a response. But Chico's response, a larger sum than he gets for playing, just makes it more funny.
Also, I think it's the perfect marriage of material and Chico's delivery. I think they're both. It's like two parallel tracks. Obviously, what he's saying is funny. If we don't rehearse, we don't play, and if we don't play, that runs into money, is a very funny idea. But if we don't know the hoist, it's just his delivery, I think, is absolutely as good as it gets here, and his dialect, although obviously not authentic, is at its funniest here.
Yeah, yep.
Yes, and his absolutely perfect timing.
Yes.
I am Emmanuel Ravelli. The way he introduces himself repeatedly, it's just beautiful. And
like the Wyatt Duck scene, this was also perfected in front of a live audience. So I'm sure they were used to playing off the moans and groans that would accompany the manhole and sewer stuff.
Yeah, that's what Dumont is doing with her little smile, right? She's filling the space for the laugh, sort of ethereally grinning from Groucho to Chico and rolling her eyes heavenward.
Actually, I think that's one of the things I most miss from never having seen them live. There were enough indications in the films where, and on some occasions, Groucho even has lines like, not all the jokes can be good. He must have done that to the audience constantly. My guess is that was a constant feature of them live, is Groucho talking to the audience about the joke you've just heard.
Yes.
It's always so funny. I just wish there was more of it, and I'll bet there was on stage.
This is one of those scenes that just sounds so natural that people think they're making it up on the spot when it's just brilliant performances.
Well, their films were entirely improvised. Didn't you know that? Do you not know anything?
Yeah, the improvisation on that train in Go West. Remarkable how they thought it.
Yes. They had to actually make the train continue to run by feeding it to itself.
So why don't we move on to the big encounter in Emma Crackers? Unlike the other ones, this one takes place rather late in the film. And, why don't we just go ahead and play it? Matthew, why don't you set this one up before we play?
Because I can't remember what is it? Oh, I know. Yes, of course. Yes, a famous oil painting has been stolen, and there are some fake ones floating about as well. One of which has been clearly painted by a left-handed artist because of the positioning of the signature. So Groucho and Chico settle down to decide how they're going to solve this crime.
Now we've got something.
What do you got, Cap?
I got Jackson Aces. What do you got?
That's good. I was bluffing.
Look at this, Ravelli. Isn't there something strikes you very funny about this picture? Oh, come. It isn't as funny as all that. Did you ever see a tree like that?
Tree? That's a spinach.
That can't be spinach. Where's the egg?
Well, it could be spinach. Look, all the sand laying around there.
You mean it's an old spinach custom? No, it's not that, Ravelli. Anything but that.
No, Cap, that's all right. It's my mistake. You know what that is? That's coleslaw.
Coleslaw?
Yeah, it's a coleslaw.
Did you ever see a coleslaw like that?
Sure. Look at this one.
No, I don't want none of your lip now. Did you ever see anything like that? Did you ever see anything like that? You know what this is? This is a left-handed painting.
Look, there's the signature.
That's right. It's in the right-hand corner.
That's right. This is either a left-handed painting or a vegetable dinner. Now, if we can find the left-handed person that painted this, we'll have the trial of Mary Dugan with sound.
Well, I saw that. Goodbye.
Now, you wait here. I'm going to need you. Now, look. We mustn't lose this. This is evidence. Now, take it to your room and leave the door open this time. We'll try that. And not a word about this to anybody, not even to me. Ravelli, we have got to find the left-handed painting.
Yeah, it's a left-handed.
Now, in a case like this, the first thing to do is to find the motive.
You got to get.
Now, what could have been the motive of the guys that swiped the Bogart?
I got it. Robbery.
Would you mind going out and crossing the boulevard when the lights are against you?
See, Cap, sit down. You understand? I got an idea how to find this painting. In a case like this, that's so mysterious, you got to get at the clues. You got to use the Sherlock Holmes method. Now you go about them like this. You say to yourself, what happened? And the answer come back, something was stolen. Then you say to yourself, what was stolen? And the answer come back, a painting.
What are you, a ventriloquist?
Now you say to yourself, where was this painting stolen? And the answer come back, in this house. Now, so far, I'm all right, eh?
Well, it's pretty hard to be wrong if you keep answering yourself all the time.
Now you go a little further and you say to yourself, who stole the painting? This is a very, very important question, Captain. You get to the answer, you got to the solution to the whole thing.
Especially if you find the picture.
Now you take all of the clues. You put them together. What do you got, eh?
A bread pudding.
Now, here's what we got. Something was stolen. Stolen where? Into this house. Stolen by who? Somebody in the house. Now, to find the painting, all you got to do is go to everybody in the house and ask them if they took it.
You know, I could rent you out as a decoy for duck hunters. You say you're going to go to everybody in the house and ask them if they took the painting. Suppose nobody in the house took the painting.
Go to the house next door.
That's great. Suppose there isn't any house next door.
Well, then, of course, we got to build one.
Well, now you're talking. What kind of a house do you think we ought to put up, huh?
Yeah, well, I tell you, Cap, you see, my idea of a house is something nice and small and comfortable.
That's the way I feel about it. I don't want anything elaborate, just a little place that I can call home and tell the wife I won't be there for dinner.
I see. You just want a telephone booth.
No, in that case, I'd get in touch with Chick Sales.
Now, what do you say, Cap, we build right about here?
Here?
Yeah, right about here.
Oh, I'd like something over here if I could get it. I don't like Junior crossing the tracks on his way to the reform school. I don't like Junior at all, as a matter of fact.
All right. We got something over there, and believe me, that's a convenient. Oh, that's a very convenient. Well, look, all you got to do is open the door, step outside, and there you are.
There you are?
Yeah.
There you are where?
Outside.
Well, suppose you want to get back in again.
You had no right to go out.
Well, don't do anything until I hear from you, will you? Say, maybe that's the painting down in the cellar.
That's no cellar. That's the roof.
That's the roof down there?
Yeah, you see, we keep the roof in the basement, so when the rain comes, the chimney don't get wet.
Well, I'm going out and get x-rayed. I'll be back in a little while. I may be wonderful, but I think you're wrong, Ravelli.
Hey, wait, don't get him excited. Come here. Now, look, here's the rooms.
Those are the rooms?
Yeah, right there's the rooms. This is your room, this is my room, and this is the maid's room.
Oh, I'd have to go through your room?
That's all right. I won't be in it.
Say, Ravelli, you couldn't put the maid in your room, eh?
What makes you think I couldn't?
Well, there's going to be a lot of traffic in there, I can see that.
Well, what do you say? You ready to sign the lease?
Well, it's a little premature. I'd like to discuss it with my husband. Could you come back this evening when he's home?
Hey, you married?
Well, I've got a girl as big as you are.
All right, get me one.
Don't get vulgar, Ravelli. Ravelli, how about the painting?
Oh, we take care of that, all right. Now, I tell you what my idea is. I think the kitchen should be white, outside the green, inside a cerise with the maroon.
The painting, I say. How about the painting, Ravelli?
All right, what do you think I talk? That's a painting, the kitchen white, outside the green, inside the cerise.
The painting that was stolen.
Stolen?
Don't you remember Mrs. Rittenhouse lost a valuable Bogart oil painting worth $100,000? Don't you remember that?
No, I'm a stranger around here. I don't remember that.
Well, what do you think I am, one of the early settlers? Ravelli, don't you remember Mrs. Bogart lost a valuable Rittenhouse oil painting worth $100,000? Don't you remember that?
No, but I've seen you someplace before.
Well, I don't know where I was, but I'll stay out of there in the future.
Hey, Cap, it come to me like a flash. This painting wasn't stolen. Ha! You know what happened? This painting, Cap, is a disappear. And yes, it disappear. And you know what make it disappear? You'll never guess, Cap. What do you think of making this painting disappear, huh? Moths. Moths eat it. Left-handed moths.
Go away. Go away. I'll be all right in a minute. Left-handed moths ate the painting, eh?
Yeah, that's my own solution.
I wish you were in it. Left-handed moths ate the painting. You know, I'd buy you a parachute if I thought it wouldn't open.
Hey, I got parachutes. It's crazy.
Come on, let's get down and get the reward. We solved it. You solved it. The credit is all yours. The painting was eaten by a left-handed moth.
Hey, you know, we did a good day's work.
How do you feel, tired?
Well,
maybe you ought to lie down for a couple of years, eh? Why don't you just lie down until rigor mortis sets in? Now, look, Ravelli, I'll show you how we get the painting.
Yeah.
We'll go to court, and we'll get out rid of habeas corpus.
You're going to get rid of what?
Oh, I should never have started that way. I can see that. I say we'll go to court, and we'll get rid of habeas corpus.
Yeah, it's a corpus. It's a corpus.
Didn't you ever see a habeas corpus?
No, but I see habeas Irish rose. Hey, you're crazy.
And this time they walk off the right side of the screen to separate it from what they did in Copenhagen.
For variety's sake, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it is Wire Duck Part 2, isn't it? But already I think I was aware then, just listening to it, that I was missing more than I was with Wire Duck solely by listening to it. There was a lot of visual stuff in that one that isn't in Wire Duck. particularly when Chico is when he's demonstrating the Sherlock Holmes method, in that painful step-by-step way where he's saying, but something was stolen. Every time he reaches one of these asinine conclusions, he steals a look at Groucho to see if Groucho is impressed, whereas Groucho has got his lips pursed in a look of absolute contempt. Which is extremely funny, and also that lovely moment when he says the painting it disappear, and Groucho goes disappear, and Chico says yeah disappear, and Groucho puts all of his fingers on the table and sort of scuttles across the table.
Yes. It's so funny that Groucho, who all through Animal Crackers, as you point out, this is pretty late in the evening, all night Groucho has been just babbling nonsense and being a total fraud. But as soon as he sits down with Chico, he becomes the embodiment of like bourgeois decorum, Chico's line, no, but I've seen you someplace before.
No, I don't get that one. I don't understand. I kept thinking it's going to go into another thing like with Chandler, where he mistakes him for somebody else.
It's supposed to be like he's so dumb.
No, you're Abby the Fishman.
Like, not only is he not following anything Groucho is saying, he's not even completely sure who Groucho is or why they're talking or where he is. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, where he's seen him before, yeah.
You were trying to catch him up with the last sentence, but he hasn't been with you for paragraph after paragraph.
So I gotta say, I love this scene. There's so many great moments in it. Just its placement so late in the film, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It meanders a little bit. It goes off in different directions. It doesn't rate quite as highly for me. Maybe because, like I said, because of where it's placed, and it doesn't have the focus of the White Duck that's setting up something that's coming up. It's just sort of them just stopping the plot and sitting down and talking. So
I agree, but I'm stupid. I like that. I like all those things about it.
I find it a little funnier and more enjoyable out of context, actually. Like just listening to it now or watching it to get ready for this podcast. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it a lot more than when I watched the movie. Animal Crackers is so brilliant and so densely packed with exhaustingly brilliant material that by the time you get to this scene in Animal Crackers, it's actually a little bit much. The home stretch of Animal Crackers, although it is easily my favorite movie, the final stretch of it does get just a little exhausting, and this scene is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're meant to be punished by them, though. That's my feeling. Is if you don't come out of a Marx Brothers film, wringing wet and ready to punch someone, then it's not a good Marx Brothers film. That's my feeling.
That's good. That's a very good metric.
There is a section of the scene where they sort of reverse roles, where Chico is feeding Groucho lines and Groucho is doing punchlines, and Chico is basically just working as a straight man, at least there for a little while.
And as often been noted before as well, the one moment where Groucho abandons his habitual disdain for what Chico's doing, when Chico suggests putting up that second house, he's suddenly consumed with enthusiasm and says, what kind of a house do you think we ought to put up? And he's right behind him there, just for that moment. That's lovely.
And to be honest, I'm not really crazy about this ending where Groucho is just so exasperated that he just starts wildly moaning and gestating and so forth. At one point he actually almost clobbers Chico when he jumps across the table. But, I guess this was perfected on stage in front of an audience, so that must have worked there. So I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
He just is sort of hyperventilating a little bit, making that wheezing noise.
It turns into Chandler.
At one point. Yeah, very much so. Yes. He grabs himself by the ear and drags himself onto the table at one point.
Okay, so let's move on to Monkey Business, where, as we've talked about before, so many of the conventions of their act were thrown out, and they seem to be trying new stuff. But luckily, they did realize that a Groucho Chico scene was imperative. So about a third of the way through the film, the action basically stops and they go at it.
How dare you invade the sanctity of the captain's quarters?
I thought he was a captain. Hey, I'm hungry. I'm going to look for something to eat.
I'll take care of that. Hello? Send up the captain's lunch.
Hey, two.
Send up his dinner, too. Who am I? I'm the captain. You want to choose up sides? Oh, engineer, will you tell him to stop the boat from rocking? I'm going to have lunch. Well, what's the matter with you?
What's the matter with me? I'm hungry. I didn't eat in 3 days.
3 days? We've only been on the boat 2 days.
Well, I didn't eat yesterday. I didn't eat today. And I'm not going to eat tomorrow. That makes it 3 days.
Well, state your business. I've got to shiver my timbers.
I got no business. I come up to see the captain's bridge.
Captain's bridge? I'm sorry. He always keeps it in a glass of water while he's eating. Would you like to see where he sleeps?
I saw that. That's the bunk.
You're just wasting your breath, and that's no great loss either. A fine sailor you are.
You bet I'm a fine sailor. You know my whole family was a sailors? My father was a partners with Columbus. Well, what do you think of that, huh?
Your father and Columbus were partners?
You bet.
Columbus has been dead 400 years.
Well, they told me it was my father.
Well, now, just hop up there, little Johnny, and I'll show you a few things that you don't know about history. Now, look. Now, there's Columbus.
That's Columbus' cycle.
Would you mind getting up off that fly paper and giving the flies a chance?
Oh, you're crazy. Flies can't read papers.
Now, Columbus sailed from Spain to India looking for a shortcut.
Oh, you mean strawberry shortcut?
I don't know. When I woke up, there was the nurse taking care of me.
What's the matter? Couldn't the nurse take care of herself?
You bet she could, but I found it out too late. Well, enough of this. Let's get back to Columbus.
I'd rather get back to the nurse.
So would I. But Columbus was sailing along on his vessel.
On his what?
Not on his what, on his vessel. Don't you know what vessel is?
Sure, I can vessel.
You suppose I could buy back my introduction to you? Now, one night, Columbus sailors started a mutiny.
No mutinies at night. They're in the afternoon. You know, mutinies Wednesdays and Saturdays.
There's my argument. Restrict immigration.
At this end, sort of abruptly, as the captain is. Who comes in? The captain, the first mate? Somebody comes in. Gilligan? Somebody shows up.
The skipper.
That one is unique in the fact that there's absolutely no point to it whatsoever. Nobody is trying to accomplish anything or has any vested interest. They're basically shooting the shit for a minute and a half.
But what is interesting there, isn't it, is when you listen to it, as we've just done, it could be just like the previous two. They could just be sat at a table on either side of a table talking to each other. But when you watch it, of course, they're not doing that. And somebody has put effort into blocking it and choreographing it. And Chico in particular is constantly on the move. He's on the table. He's off the table. He's on the chair. They're walking around. So visually, it's got more energy than the other two. Although to listen to it, you wouldn't know that.
It's interesting how the teacher and student dynamic always reasserts itself. We know that was a major conceit of their vaudeville act, and that it comes back literally in horse feathers. But in all these scenes, or certainly here and in the Wyatt Duck scene, the premise is often Groucho conveying information to Chico in what for him is sort of a rare, straightforward attempt to, I don't know, do some good in the world, to share some knowledge. And how adaptable that question and answer format of education is to these two guys.
Well, they needed that here because there is really no plot for him to advance. They're just trying to survive.
There's no scheme of any sort, is there? Yeah.
Just their very presence in this room is already kind of mischievous. Mm-hmm. So Groucho figures, well, why not teach him a few things about history since we're here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they told me it was my father.
I love that line because obviously the line should be, they told me it was Columbus, but he flips it and they told me it was my father.
I'm trying to remember what it is in the script. It's something else entirely, isn't it? In the script that I've seen, when Groucho says Columbus has been dead 400 years, Chico's line is, that's why they split up. So much funnier, I think, is they told me it was my father, which I think is an absolutely inspired edition, which could easily have been Chico's own.
That's a line that it's sort of transcendent because it's unmistakably funny, but you're not 100% sure why.
Yes.
Let's see. In Monkey Business, his grandfather is still alive, but his father isn't, right?
There's also the connection between Chico and Columbus, which comes back in Horse Feathers and maybe other times too. I guess this is vaguely based on
Story of Mankind.
A Story of Mankind, yeah, of like Italian pride in Columbus, although he, I suppose, was from Genoa.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what they're dealing with here. Chico has a real affinity for Columbus, and It's funny. What do you think Columbo do?
So why don't we move on to Horse Feathers, where we don't have a big, extensive Groucho Chico scene, but we do have something short and sweet and pretty much perfect. Let's listen to that.
Who are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Who are you?
I'm fine, too, but you can't come in unless you give the password.
Oh, what is the password?
Oh, no, you got to tell me. Hey, I tell what I do. I give you 3 guesses. It's the name of a fish.
Is it Mary?
That's no fish.
She isn't. Well, she drinks like one. Let me see. Is it sturgeon?
Hey, you crazy. Sturgeon, he's a doctor who cuts you open when you're sick. Now, I give you one more chance.
I got it. Haddock.
That's funny. I got a haddock, too.
What do you take for a haddock?
Well, now, sometimes I take aspirin, or sometimes I take a calomel.
Say, I'd walk a mile for a calomel.
You mean chocolate calomel. I like that, too, but you know, guess it. Hey, what's the matter? You don't understand English? You can't come in here unless you say swordfish. Now, I give you one more guess.
Swordfish. Swordfish. I think I got it. Is it swordfish?
That's it. You guess it.
Pretty good, huh?
Fine. You guess it.
What do you want?
I want to come in.
What's the password?
Oh, you're no fool of me. Swordfish.
No, I got tired of that. I changed it.
What's the password now?
Gee, I forgot it. I better come outside with you.
You know, this is the first of their scenes that is really cinematic in nature as they cut back and forth from the different sides of the door. And while I'm sure it would have been fine on stage, I think the way it's done here in the movie makes it really hum, makes it even better. Obviously, it's a lot shorter than the stage pieces they were doing in New York, but it's just perfect the way it is. So can't complain.
It is perfect, yeah. And until this exercise of watching them all, it just hadn't struck me actually that there was so little of that stuff in Horse Feathers, that scene was so short, and that was all we get of that stuff. It had never really struck me.
I guess there's a little more Groucho and Chico stuff at the bar, right? When he's trying to pick up
just a little, yes,
just a little, yeah,
just a drop, yeah. This scene, I agree with your word for it, Bob. It is perfect. It's a small dose, but it's a super concentrated dose. And it's also has a neatness to it. Wyaduck and the, building a house next door conversation in Animal Crackers, they are brilliant and kind of overstuffed with funny lines and moments. And then they sort of meander and dribble out at the end. But this is more like a comedy routine in that it has a beginning, middle, and an end. It has a great twist with Groucho changing the password. I love Chico's game laughter. Swordfish, I know this. And by the same token, the way Groucho, before volunteering the password as swordfish, the way he thinks about it for a moment, and he says to himself under his breath, swordfish, huh? Swordfish. I think I've got it, swordfish.
And they both have a different motivation going into it, because Chico's been instructed not to let anybody in, and Groucho has a reason to get in. But halfway through the scene, they basically abandon those because they're having too much fun.
Yeah, and also the sliding of that window in the door, that very percussive sliding, punctuates the scene so beautifully, much as the tearing of the contracts will in A Night at the Opera. It just provides a kind of rhythm track.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go to Duck Soup now, where, like all the Groucho Chico scenes in this middle period, it's when the characters are meeting for the first time.
Peanuts!
Hey! You want to be a public nuisance?
Sure. How much does the job pay?
I've got a good mind to join the club and beat you over the head with it.
Peanuts to you.
Have you got a license?
License? No, but my dog, he's got millions of them. Believe me, he's some smart dog. He went with Admiral Byrd to the pole.
I'll bet the dog got to the pole first.
You win.
Come on up here. I want to scare the cabinet.
Hello? Hello? No, he's not in. All right, I tell him. Goodbye. That was for you.
I'm sorry I'm not in. I wanted to have a long talk with you. Now, listen here. You give up that silly peanut stand, and I'll get you a soft government job. Now, let's see. How would you like a job in the mint?
Mint? No. I don't like a mint. What other flavor you got? Hello? Hello? No, not yet. All right, I tell him. Goodbye. Thank you. That was for you again.
I wonder whatever became of me. I should have been back here a long time ago. Now, listen here. I've got a swell job for you, but first I'll have to ask you a couple of important questions. Now, what is it that has 4 pair of pants, lives in Philadelphia, and it never rains but it pours?
That's a good one. I give you 3 guesses.
Now, let me see. Has 4 pair of pants, lives in Philadelphia. Is it male or female?
No, I don't think so.
Is he dead?
Who?
I don't know. I give up.
I give up, too. Now I ask you another one. What is it? Got a big black mustache. Smokes a big black cigar. And he's a big pain in the neck.
Now, don't tell me. Has a big black mustache. Smokes a big black cigar. And there's a big pain in the... Does he wear glasses?
That's right. You guess it quick.
Just for that, you don't get the job I was going to give you.
What job?
Secretary of War.
All right, I take it.
Sold.
Next time you watch that scene, keep your eye on the dog. He's got some major fleas, or he's licking his balls or something. I don't know. He's going at it. That's some itchy dog.
And we shouldn't forget as well, absent from that clip is the glorious capper later on of the standing army. We save money on chairs, whereupon Groucho does another one of his complete capitulations to madness and kicks him out of the room, which is the delayed finale to that scene, and a great one.
I don't have a lot to say on this one. I mean, there's some good jokes. It advances the plot, but there's no focus or momentum. It's a transitional scene, and it's fun and it's enjoyable, but there's nothing remarkable about it.
It's full of good jokes. I mean, my position, what I was going to say was I was going to complain that it was too short, and that was before I realised that just how short that Horse Feathers clip was as well. Obviously, we have access to earlier scripts, and there are lots of lovely jokes that I wish were still there. Just 3 that I've picked out. Groucho saying, "What do you call your dog when you want him?" To which Chico replies, "I don't want him," which is lovely. Also, Groucho says, "I'll make you vice president of the country." Chico says, "Oh no, nothing doing. I had a brother who was a vice president once, and that's the last we ever heard of him." Groucho says, "Well, maybe he's still the vice president," which is superb. And also, I like Chico saying, "I've got to have a job where I come to work at 11, go to lunch at 12, and quit at 1, and twice a year I've got to have a 6-month vacation," which is lovely. But yeah, no, it's a great scene. All the jokes are great, and one of my absolutely favourite kind of cumulatively absurd ones where Groucho starts by asking an obviously stupid question about lives in Philadelphia, never rains but it pours, whereupon Chico then says, "I'll give you 3 guesses." Groucho says, "Is it male or female?" "I no think so." "Is he dead?" "Who?" "I don't know." That's lovely.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just since we're on the subject of Duck Soup, we know that the screenplay owes a lot to Flywheel, Shyster, and Flywheel, radio program, which was essentially nothing but Groucho and Chico scenes. So there was a tremendous amount of this kind of material being generated at the time. It tends to turn up in sprinkled throughout Duck Soup.
Some more good stuff in the trial as well, isn't there?
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so why don't we move on to another classic? We're going to move on to A Night at the Opera. Do we need to set this one up?
Nah.
Harpo has just knocked Las Perry unconscious and revived him with smelling salts, only to knock him unconscious again. And Chico approaches Groucho, and Groucho is casually resting his foot on the unconscious body of Rodolfo Las Perry.
Okay, now everybody got that? Okay, and this is where we pick it up.
Get fresh with me, huh?
How do you do?
Hello.
What's the matter, mister?
Oh, we had an argument, and he pulled a knife on me, so I shot him.
Do you mind if I...
No, go right ahead. Plenty of room. 2 beers, bartender.
I'll take 2 beers, too.
Well, things seem to be getting better around the country.
I don't know. I'm a stranger here myself.
Say, I just remembered. I came back here looking for somebody. You don't know who it is, do you?
Here's a funny thing. It just slipped my mind.
Oh, I know. The greatest tenor in the world. That's what I'm after.
Why, I'm his manager.
Whose manager?
The greatest tenor in the world.
The fellow that sings at the opera here?
Sure.
What's his name?
What do you care? I can't pronounce it. What do you want with him?
Well, I want to sign him up for the New York Opera Company. You know that America is waiting to hear him sing?
Well, he can sing loud, but he can't sing that loud.
Well, I think I can get America to meet him halfway. Could he sail tomorrow?
You pay him enough money, he could sail yesterday. How much you pay him?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. $1,000 a night. I'm entitled to a small profit. How about $10 a night?
$10? I'll take it.
All right, but remember, I get 10% for negotiating the deal.
Yes, and I get 10% for being the manager. How much does that leave?
Well, that leaves him, $8.
$8, eh? Well, he sends $5 home to his mother.
Well, that leaves $3.
$3. Can he live in New York on $3?
Like a prince. Of course, he won't be able to eat, but he can live like a prince. However, out of that $3, he'll have to pay an income tax.
Oh, his income tax.
Yes, there's a federal tax and a state tax and a city tax and a street tax and a sewer tax.
How much does this come to?
Well, I figure if he doesn't sing too often, he can break even.
All right, we take it.
All right, fine. Now, here are the contracts. You just put his name at the top and you sign at the bottom. There's no need of you reading that because these are duplicates.
Yeah, it's a duplicate, please. Duplicates, eh?
I say they're duplicates.
Oh, sure, it's a duplicate, Sam.
Don't you know what duplicates are?
Sure, there's 5 kids up in Canada.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. I haven't been in Canada in years. Well, go ahead and read it.
What does it say?
Well, go on and read it.
All right, you read it. Go on.
All right, I'll read it to you. Can you hear?
I haven't heard anything yet. Did you say anything?
Well, I haven't said anything worth hearing.
Well, that's why I didn't hear anything.
Well, that's why I didn't say anything.
Can you read?
If my arms were a little longer, I could read it. You haven't got a baboon in your pocket, have you? Here we are. Now I've got it. Now pay particular attention to this first clause because it's most important. It says the party of the first part should be known in this contract as the party of the first part. How do you like that? That's pretty neat, eh?
No, it's no good.
What's the matter with it?
I don't know. Let's hear it again.
It says the party of the first part should be known in this contract as the party of the first part.
That sounds a little better this time.
Well, it grows on you. Would you like to hear it once more?
Just the first part.
What do you mean, the party of the first part?
No, the first part of the party of the first part.
All right, it says the first part of the party of the first part should be known in this contract as the first part of the party of the first part should be known in this contract. Look, why should we quarrel about a thing like this? We'll take it right out, eh?
Yeah, it's too long anyhow. Now what do we got left?
Well, I got about 1.5 feet. Now it says the party of the second part should be known in this contract as the party of the second part.
Well, I don't know about that.
Now what's the matter?
I don't like the second party either.
Well, you should have come to the first party. We didn't get home till around 4 a.m. I was blind for 3 days.
Hey, look. Why can't the first part of the second party be the second part of the first party? Then you got something.
Well, look, rather than go through all that again, what do you say?
Fine.
Now I've got something here you're bound to like. You be crazy about it.
No, I don't like it.
You don't like what?
Whatever it is, I don't like it.
Well, let's break up an old friendship over a thing like that. Ready?
Okay. Now, the next part I don't think you're going to like.
Well, your word's good enough for me. Now then, is my word good enough for you?
I should say not.
Well, that takes out 2 more clauses. Now, the party of the 8th part...
No,
no?
that's no good, no.
The party of the 9th...
No, that's no good, too. Hey, how is it my contract is skinnier than yours?
Well, I don't know. You must have been out on the tail last night. But anyhow, we're all set now, aren't we?
Oh, sure.
Now, just you put your name right down there, and then the deal is legal.
Hey, I forgot to tell you, I can't write.
No, that's all right. There's no ink in the pen anyhow. But listen, it's a contract, isn't it?
Oh, sure.
We've got a contract, no matter how small it is.
Hey, wait. What does this say here, this thing here?
Oh, that's the usual clause. That's in every contract. That just says, if any of the parties participating in this contract are shown not to be in their right mind, the entire agreement is automatically nullified.
Well, I don't know.
It's all right. That's in every contract. That's what they call a sanity clause.
I think I'm going to stop it right there.
Very good. I second that.
Okay. So anyhow, as they're ripping the contracts out, unlike you guys, I'm actually watching the scenes as they're playing through. Chico is purposely reaching down the contract to tear a little more off than Groucho. Groucho just pulls a part off. Chico looks at him and goes a little further down. You can see his fingers inching down the contract. So it's no accident he ends up with a shorter contract.
This is right back, obviously, isn't it, to Wire Duck and the Left-Handed Moths? It's the third one of those, really. The only difference, as I said earlier, are those very hokey pauses. The worst one, I think, is when Chico says those kids up in Canada, when it then cuts to a close up of Groucho and another long pause, and then the nothing line. I wouldn't know anything about that. I haven't been in Canada in years. So all you need really to cover the laugh is that line. Why you have those pauses in there? But apart from that, obviously it's great stuff. Isn't it lovely that that Groucho, having decided that he's going to keep all but $10 of a fee of 1,000, then asks for 10% of that 10.
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful scene. I mean, I do agree with you about the pacing, Matthew, and any excuse to denigrate an MGM under a Paramount, I would take. But as is so often the case with Night at the Opera, the performances and the writing are just too good to be sneezed at. And this scene also has a kind of beauty to it. There's something sort of archetypal about it, isn't there, for the Marx Brothers, for Groucho and Chico? The idea that the thing they are laying waste to in this case is an actual contract which purports to be a binding agreement that will affect the lives of these characters and the characters, around them. And yet, in the face of this official document, Groucho and Chico literally tear it to shreds. And then it ends. I know the Sanity Clause pun gets a variety of reactions, positive and negative, but and I think I understand where all of that is coming from. But there is also something sort of defining about it, isn't it? It has, Adamson calls it a sic semper fidelis of a pun, a sic semper tyrannis of a pun. Yeah, the idea that the scene ends with, this attack on an idea under which anybody who is on anything but the straight and narrow and officious and proper and businesslike can be outruled. It's just kind of a perfect thing for the Marx Brothers to be attacking.
Mm-hmm. It's very tough for them to have done such a great scene within the parameters of what Thalberg and MGM were trying to do. It's just a great accomplishment that they were able to do a scene that advanced the plot, didn't demean either character, and was still hilarious. It looks so simple, but as we see later on that they weren't able to match this at MGM. This was the peak of their accomplishment there.
I mean, I think, as you say, the fact that it does advance the plot is how they got away with that. I mean, imagine if the Left-Handed Moths was written, was written for this. You can see Thalberg's ballpoint pen tearing through the script page. Can't you shorten this? So yeah, I think it is very, very cleverly done for that reason. My only regret, I think, about the scene is that it doesn't stay in long shot, because I'd love to see them go through this very long routine with Walter Wolf King there the whole time on the floor with their feet on him.
As blood's trickling out of his ears, yeah.
And flies begin to surround the body. It is true that what connects it with the two scenes you compare it to, Matthew, the Wyaduck scene and the Left-Handed Moth scene, of course, is the authorship. Mm-hmm. Kaufman and Riskind, who are undoubtedly a big part of the reason this is so good.
And obviously this was perfected on stage during the tour. We'd love to have seen what they started with. We don't have any earlier version of this, do we?
No, not that I've seen.
I guess not.
The script book, I don't have that handy.
We know there's an Italian line that was
a couple of
cuts.
Couple of
Italian lines, yeah. There is one joke in this scene that I just don't like at all, which is you haven't got a baboon in your
I love that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Just because a baboon has long arms?
Oh, yeah. He wants his own arms to be longer, so he thinks the solution to that would be to have something else with longer arms.
Oh, yeah. I felt that. I use that line pretty regularly when I'm trying to read something without my glasses. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, we found a divide among the panel.
But since people are waiting for it, let's give them what they're asking for.
You can't fool me. There ain't no Santa Claus.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to what is perhaps the most interesting of the scenes. And
would you say it's the most fruitsy?
I don't know. It's probably the last one that could be considered a classic, though it deviates from the formula in so many ways, but it's still undeniably great. But before we talk about it, let's take a listen.
$2 on sunup.
Hey, boss. Boss, come here. You want something hot?
Not now. I just had lunch. Anyhow, I don't like hot ice cream.
Hey, come here. I don't sell ice cream. That's a fake at the fool of the police. I sell a tips on the horses. I got us something that they can't lose, $1.
No, some other time. I'm sorry. I'm betting on sunup. Some other time, huh?
Hey,
$2
boss.
on sunup.
Hey, come here. Sunup is the worst horse on the track.
I notice he wins all the time.
All right, just because he comes in first.
Well, I don't want him any better than first. $2 on sunup.
Hey, boss, come here. Come here. Suppose you bet on Sunup. What are you going to get up for your money? 2 to 1. $1 and you'll remember me all your life.
That's the most nauseating proposition I ever had.
Come on. You look like a sport. Come on, boss. Don't be a crunger for $1. Thank you.
What's this?
That's the horse.
How'd he get in here?
Get your ice cream, fruitsy ice cream.
ZVBXRPL.
Get your
I had that same horse when I had my eyes examined.
Get your tootsie.
Say, ice cream. What about this optical illusion you just slipped me? I don't understand it.
Well, that's not the real name of the horse. That's the name of the horse in code. Look in your code book.
What do you mean, code?
Yeah, look in the code book. That'll tell you what horse you got.
Well, I haven't got any code book.
You know got a code book?
You know where I can get one?
Well, just by accident, I think I got one right here. Here you are.
How much is it?
That's a free.
Oh, thanks.
Just a $1 printing charge.
Well, give me one without printing, huh? I'm sick of printing.
Oh, come on. You want to win?
Yes, sure. Of course I want to win.
Well, then you got to have this.
Want to win, but I don't want the savings of a lifetime wiped out in the twinkling of an eye. Here.
Thank you very much. Ice cream.
ZVBXRPL, page 34. Hey, ice cream, I can't make head or tail out of this.
Oh, that's all right. Look in the master code book. That'll tell you where to look.
Master code? I haven't got any master code book.
You know got a master code book?
No, do you know where I can get one?
Well, just by accident, I think I got one right here. Ha, there you are.
A lot of quick accidents around here for a quiet neighborhood. Just a minute. Is there a printing charge on this?
No.
Oh, thanks.
Just a $2 delivery charge.
What do you mean, delivery charge? I'm standing right next to you.
Well, for such a short distance, I make it $1.
Couldn't I move over here and make it 50 cents?
Yes, but I'd move over here and make it $1 just the same.
Say, maybe I better open a charge account, huh?
You got us some references?
Well, the only one I know around here is you.
That's no good. You'll have to pay cash.
You know, a little while ago, I could have put $2 on setup and avoided all this.
Yeah, no, throw your money away. Thank you very much.
Now I'm all set, huh?
Yes. Get your Tootsie Fruitsy ice cream.
Master code, plain.
Get your ice cream, Tootsie Fruitsy. Get your Tootsie Fruitsy.
ZVBXRPL.
Get your Tootsie.
The letter Z stands for J unless the horse is a filly.
Get your Tootsie Fruitsy.
Hey, Tootsie Fruitsy, is the horse a filly?
I don't know. Look in your breeder's guide. Get your ice cream, Tootsie.
What do you mean, breeder's guide? I haven't got any breeder's guide.
You haven't got a breeder's guide?
Shh, not so loud. I don't want it to get around that I haven't got a breeder's guide. Even my best friends don't know I haven't got a breeder's guide.
Well, boss, I feel pretty sorry for you walking around without a breeder's guide. Why, you're just throwing your money away buying those other books without a breeder's guide.
Where can I get one as though I didn't know?
One is no good. You got to have the whole set. Get your Tootsie Fruitsy.
Hey, you know, all I wanted was a horse, not a public library. What do you mean? How much is the set?
$1.
$1?
Yeah, 4 for 5.
Well, all right. I'll give me the 4 of them. There's no use throwing away money, eh?
All right, here you are.
This is all I'm buying, too. I didn't want so much. I thought you could do this quickly.
Here you are. $6 on sunup. Get your Tootsie Fruitsy.
Read it good.
Get the ice cream.
ZVBXRPL is Buns.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
Huh?
right.
Buns?
Yeah, someday the code gives you the name of the jockey instead of the horse. Now you find out who Jockey Buns is riding, and that's the horse you bet on. That's easy. Get the ice cream, Tootsie Fruitsy.
Well, I'm getting the idea of it. I didn't get it for a long time, you know. It's pretty tricky when you don't know it, isn't it, huh?
It's not that book.
Huh?
It's not that book.
It's not that book.
No.
Oh, I see.
No, it's not that book.
Huh?
It's not that book. No, it's not that book.
Huh?
No, you haven't got that book.
You've got it, huh? I'll get it in a minute, though, won't I?
Get your Tootsie Fruitsy.
I'm getting a fine Tootsie Fruitsying right here.
Get your ice cream.
How much is it?
$1.
It's the last book I'm buying.
Sure, you don't need them more. Here.
Yeah. Now, here's a $10 bill, and shoot the change, will you? They're going to the post, huh?
I got no change. I'll have to give you 9 more books. You don't mind, huh, boss? You take 9 more books.
9 more?
Yeah.
Say, you don't handle any bookcases
Well,
there, do
you're
you?
coming tomorrow again.
I didn't know that you needed so much.
That's all right. You're going to win on the
I thought you
horses
could just
today.
walk up and bet on a horse.
Yeah. Open.
Huh?
Open. Yeah.
Say, am I shutting books down there?
That's it. Close.
Huh?
Close. That's it. Nice.
Good thing I brought my legs with me, eh?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
tell me, what horse have I got?
I'll
Hurry up,
find
will
it.
you?
Here it is, right
I just
here.
heard the fellow blowing his horn.
Here it is, here. Jockey Buns, 152. That's Rosie.
Rosie, yeah?
Look, oh, boy, look, 40 to 1.
40 to 1.
Oh, what a horse, Rosie.
Am I going to give that bookie a whipping?
Oh, boy.
I was going to bet on Sun up at 10 to 1.
Look, 40 to 1. That's
I'll
it.
show them a thing or two. Hey there, big boy. $2 on Rosie, huh?
Sorry, that race is over.
Huh?
I say the race is over.
Over? Who won?
Sun up.
Son up! That's to my horse. Son up. Son up. Hurry up. Son up. Oh, what? Goodbye, boss. Goodbye. Son up. But then 20, 30. Son up. 40.
Get your Tootsie Fruitsy, a nice ice cream, a nice Tootsie Fruity ice cream.
Is it over yet?
So I just noticed something watching it through that time. Chico places his $6 bet before he comes into the big $10 windfall at the end. So he could have made a lot more money.
That's true, yeah.
So as we've discussed before, this is such a huge departure from the traditional Groucho Chico scene. I don't know where to start. It's very linear, and we know exactly where it's going, and we know exactly how it's going to end, which in itself makes it very un-Marx-like. It's a great traditional comedy scene, but, with a little reworking, it could have been done by a whole bunch of different comics. Abbott and Costello, Martin and Lewis, Laverne and Shirley. Lots of people could have made it work.
It could have been done by Woodward and Bernstein. It's scientific almost, like it's it relies on craft rather than inspiration for its humor, which is okay. I mean, this isn't a crime, but it's like the Tootsie Fruitsy ice cream. Well, that's not all that funny, but if we have him chant it repeatedly throughout the scene, it'll create momentum and build laughs. And it's almost kind of cynical. There's also something about the way, like when Chico is patronizing Groucho is tossing off slightly lame remarks, like it's a good thing I brought my legs with me. And Chico laughs in a kind of patronizing way, the way you do when you're trying to flatter somebody because you want something from them. And on one hand, it's a nice little acting moment from Chico. On the other hand, Groucho, it is kind of the beginning of Groucho being reduced to being sort of a fool.
Yeah, he's really being taken advantage of here, and not really in a fun way, like where Chico is outsmarting him or using anti-logic. It's basically just Groucho being weak. I think it would have been much more satisfying had this been done to like Edgar Kennedy or Louis Soren.
I like the idea that Chico is the one person who can kind of get the better of Groucho, because Chico is seemingly not as smart as Groucho, but is much craftier and more wily. But I think that is only pleasurable when Groucho has the kind of reactions that he does in Animal Crackers and Coconuts and Night at the Opera. If Groucho's reaction is a kind of parody of being affronted, then he's still in character and it's all good. But here, Groucho is really just, poor guy, he's just trying to place a bet at the racetrack and he's being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I would liken it to the Dunkirk evacuation in the Second World War, in that that was officially deemed a successful failure, insofar as, although it was a strategic loss, they got all the guys out without a massacre. And I think this is a very, very good bad sketch. I think it's so well played. I think it's just so nice to watch them do it. I like the containment of it. I like the way it doesn't build in any way visually. But it is very meat and potatoes stuff. I think that the one line that lifts it into authentic Marxdom is when Groucho asks for $9 change, and Chico says he'll give him 9 more books, and that's deemed an acceptable alternative. But apart from that, it's basic, but it is funny. It is funny.
But it's funny in that what's going to happen. In the previous scenes, you don't know where they were going or where the conversation was headed. Here we know, and it's just well performed by a couple of great comedians.
Yeah. It does contain the memorable and sort of inexplicably deathless phrase ZVBXRPL, which, as was established in the 3rd episode of this podcast, that is Frank Ferrante's password for everything. So if you want to get into any of his accounts, go ahead. He told us that. When Groucho says that's the most nauseating proposition I've ever had, is this the closest he ever comes in the movies to uttering the apocryphal line, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard?
Maybe so. I mean, he does. There are a few lines that he gives with that intonation, isn't it? Joe Adamson mentions it, that he's doing it a lot. I think in The Big Store, I think he's got 2 or 3. But in terms of...
Oh, and in A Day at the... I wouldn't mind framing her a prettier picture.
Never seen. Yes, that's right, yeah. But in terms of the actual line, I guess that is about the closest, yeah.
And I think another oddity in this scene, which is, I think, the only example of its kind, is at the very end. Groucho kind of does his Chico Marx impression.
Yes.
When he takes up the Tootsie Fritzy chant. That doesn't happen at any other time in the movies, does it?
And he's not very good at it.
Yeah, he does. He does a pretty lousy Chico impression. He's far more convincing as Dr. Glass in the next movie.
For a lot of people, this is their favorite Groucho Chico scene, and I don't mean to dismiss them. It is a great scene, and particularly the first time you see it, when you don't know what's going to happen. It's wonderful. But once you've seen it once, it loses a lot of its power.
That is a key difference, isn't it, between this and some of the greater Groucho Chico scenes? That once you know what's coming here, there's something a little tedious about getting through it. Also, what about the substance of Chico's scam? I mean, apparently all these books he has in his cart actually do follow. I mean, you actually could get the name of the jockey riding Rosie from referring to all these volumes. So it is apparently very elaborately set up in advance.
I think Chico just switched one letter in the code. Send them off in a different direction.
What about Groucho's crushed fedora and white blazer in this scene? It seems like an MGM mandate, right? Well, you wouldn't wear a tailcoat to the racetrack. We have to put him in something else here. But he looks good. I like his getup.
Yeah, it's a nice look for him.
Yeah, because that's not what he's wearing at the sanitarium. And when he heard that music, he rushed out. He was in a hurry to get to the racetrack, but apparently he still had time to go back to his room and change.
Yeah, I think that's MGM. At Paramount, he goes to a football game in his tailcoat.
He played a football game in his tailcoat.
Plays. Yeah. But here, if he's going to the racetrack, he's got to dress
I'm just
for
pleased he hasn't got bare arms. That's all.
Oh, yes, indeed. But the fact that he wears that crushed fedora is what allowed our friend Jay Hopkins to impersonate Groucho so easily without having to get a perm like I did.
And why was Chico so worried about Harpo stealing his ice cream earlier? Was he worried he was going to steal a book?
Oh, yeah.
So anyhow, let's move on. We got the room service, and I couldn't find anything I couldn't find the real Groucho Chico scene. I did find about 30, 40 seconds where they're talking to each other.
How about a two-handed game of pinochle while we're fasting?
No, I'm just going to concentrate on the food. If there was only something left we could hock.
How about that moose head?
Oh, no, you don't. I shot him with my own hands. I ate him up to the neck, but I refused to part with the rest of him.
If I could get my watch out of Huck, I'd huck it again.
I'm so hungry I see spots before my eyes.
Me too.
Mine are beginning to look like hamburgers.
If you see one with onions, save it for me.
Yeah, I don't know if this really counts. I mean, or if it does, there must also be brief exchanges in the big store.
And as I mentioned earlier in the week, it looks like Chico has really
given up on Italy.
His accent here, it's very, very Brooklynish here. So we basically go from a day at the races where, despite them changing the format, they still came up with a quality scene. Now we're at the circus, where they seem to try to do a bit more of an old school Groucho Chico scene, but pretty much failed miserably at almost every turn.
I know you'll think I'm on a scavenger hunt, but I'm looking for Antonio Ferrelli.
Mr. Loophole, I'm sure glad to see you.
Well, Tony, you old warhorse. I haven't seen you since I stopped taking Scott's emulsion.
You know, I was afraid you wasn't going to get here in time.
Oh.
There, you see, another minute and you missed the train. But now that you're here, everything's going to be all right. Hey, this is a big case. You're going to make a lots of money. This is your lucky day, boss.
I'll say it is. I don't know what the trouble is, but I'll straighten it out in no time. Well, see you inside. Would you mind holding that train still while I try to mount it?
I'm sorry, boss. So nobody gets on the train unless they got the badge.
Badge?
The badge, yeah.
Oh, badge. Oh, you mean my Lone Ranger badge. Sorry, they took it back. I stopped eating the cereal.
Now let me see your badge.
Well, I just haven't.
You no got the badge.
Quiet. The engineer may be eavesdropping. Well, the circus is certainly lucky to have you for a watchdog. You old badger, you.
Hey, where you going?
I'm going to the laundry and get ironed out. I'm rough dry now.
Hey, come here. I got an idea. You know my boss, Jeff Wilson? He owns the circus. He might give you a badge.
Say, that's fast thinking. I'll see Mr. Wilson. He'll give me a badge, and I'll get on the train. Fine. Now, where is Mr. Wilson?
He's on the train.
On the train? You know, it was awfully nice of you floating this case my way.
Ha, so nothing.
You know, if you hadn't sent for me, I'd probably be home now in a nice warm bedroom, in a comfortable bed with a hot toddy.
Huh?
That's a drink.
That's too bad. You know, if it was up to me, I'd let you on the train like that.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not up to me.
No, but it's up to my ankles.
Hey, Tadpole, you better get out of the water. You're going to get wet.
Oh, nonsense. If I was any drier, I'd drown.
You better get out of the dampness, my friend.
Friend?
Sure you're my friend. My very best friend. Hey, Pudgy, where's your badge? Okay. Hey, Celia, where's your badge? Okay. I know what you think. Even the sealer's got the badge. And just to think, because orders is orders, I can't let my best friend on the train. All right, I take a chance. I don't care if I lose my job. I'm going to give you a badge. I'm going to give you my badge. But a promise, you no tell, you swear.
They'll never get anything out of me unless they use a pump.
Last chance, all aboard.
Aren't you going to wait for Noah?
Right this way. Just a minute, brother. Have you got a badge?
Of course, naturally. Don't you know no one gets on the train unless he has a badge?
Hey, what are you, a wise guy? That's the last year's badge. Get away.
What an idiot.
Hey.
Giving him the badge and it's the wrong one.
Yeah. Groucho was smiling throughout this whole thing. I just want to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Groucho performance issue that you have for this entire film, as well as the next film.
And I think that his performance issues are accentuated here is because they have to talk over this rain.
Yeah.
Shout pretty much everything.
The rain makes it a very uncomfortable scene, besides just being bad. Groucho sloshing around in the water and it seems uncomfortable. There's that fedora again, though, I suppose.
It falls off right at the end, though, doesn't it? So we get a good look at that wig just at the end, as
to top it off. Like you thought it was unfunny before. I have to admit, I do like the one gag about the hot toddy. That always makes me laugh. But it goes by so fast that it doesn't really have time to register. Like Adamson says in his book, even when there's good material here, it's just cluttered.
Yeah.
I mean, in the hands of better writers, plural, and as Adamson points out, Brecker being just one person was perhaps his biggest problem. The great Marx Brothers material tends to be collaboratively written. But in the hands of better writers, I do think the idea of Chico giving Groucho his badge and then rejecting him because that badge is no longer valid, there's the germ of a good Marx Brothers idea there, but it's just the way it comes off is not
But the fact that Chico's the one who actually called for him in the first place,
exactly.
If it wasn't for that might have made a little more.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say the one way I think it could have been improved is if Chico can still recognize him, he can still know who he is, but the person that summoned him is what's her face, Step Up and Take a Bow features, the guy's girlfriend. She's gone and got a detective. He turns up out of the blue. Chico recognizes him, but it isn't Chico that summoned him there. And then I think it would already be 10 times better. Chico has just made such a moron that it just doesn't work at all.
And Chico really doesn't have any funny lines in this. He's basically just saying, no, you should have a badge. Okay, get a badge. No, you can't get on. You don't have a badge. There's no miscommunication. There's no misunderstanding. There's just a lot of changes in attitude for no apparent reason.
I'm calling Groucho Tadpole.
Although you must love the line, aren't you going to wait for Noah?
Well, yeah, that line always does jump out at me. I always think, on one hand, I should be delighted by that. That's the voice of Groucho Marx invoking my name. And yet, it's barely the voice of Groucho Marx because of the way he's talking in this movie. But yeah, it does jump out at me.
Compare this to the contract scene where they dangle illogic to create great funny lines. Here they seem to think that the lack of logic in itself is funny. Well, let me tell you, it ain't.
But as you both point out, you can feel the effort here to make a Groucho Chico scene. Like in Room Service, they weren't trying. But here, yes, it's the attempt, the failed attempt is far more painful than the absence of such a scene might be.
It feels like a junior high school class where they read a textbook about the Marxes and tried to write a Groucho Chico scene. And this is one that got a D+.
This is a sidebar if ever there was one, but now it's on my mind since Matthew mentions Groucho saying, aren't you going to wait for Noah? I assume in Coconuts, because of the character of Bob Adams, the Marx Brothers say the name Bob. Do they ever say Matthew in any of the films?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody does.
Nobody ever does.
Nobody ever says the word Matthew. It's one of those names that it's probably the most common name that you never hear in anything.
Wow. Well, that's really interesting.
There really aren't any.
If I'll Say She Is gets back to the stage, I'm going to put a Matthew in there for you.
I'm sure Zeppo was in A Night at the Opera. He would have been Matthew Driftwood. Okay.
I'll settle for that.
And to digress for a moment, Harpo also has a stupid smile on his face in the scene when he comes and flashes his badges. It doesn't look happy. It doesn't look devilish. It just looks like Buzzle trying to work his magic on Harpo as well.
What's going on with that seal? Why that seal has a badge like attached to its
ass?
Something?
Yeah.
I mean, of all the places you might put a badge on a seal, I guess the idea is so that there can be this reveal where the seal kind of lifts up its hind regions and exposes the badge. But I don't know.
It could be under a front.
If I were given a badge and told, "Hey, put this badge on that seal," I would not ask the seal to turn.
How many stunt seals do you think there were in Hollywood? Is this the same one from Horse Feathers?
No, it's not. This one is called Slicker, and the one in Horse Feathers was called Lucille. These are the things you learn from my book.
Oh, Lucille. That's like a... Because it was a loose seal that anticipates Arrested Development by several decades.
But this one, Slicker, was in some other films as well. So he's...
Oh, and did he have a badge sticking out of his region?
It was in his contract in all his films, yeah.
It was in more than his contract.
So, I don't know, maybe you guys remember, but as I went through the next couple of films, Go West and the Big Story, I really wasn't able to find anything that counts as a real Groucho Chico seed. And maybe if this, what we saw in At the Circus is representative of the best they could do, it's maybe just as well that they didn't even try. You know, everybody knows I'm not a big fan of Go West, but I sort of do like the scene where they're with the girls getting a little drunk. I think that's one of the more amusing parts of the film for me. But that doesn't really count as a Groucho Chico scene. That's just one that they're in together. But are you surprised that they didn't go back to that for the next couple? Because it had become such a institution up to that point, and they just abandoned it.
I guess Big Stall probably would have had one, wouldn't they, if it wasn't for Groucho and Harpo being together in that unusual rule-breaking way.
Yeah, and in Go West, that opening scene, which tends to be a little overpraised, I think, just for being notably better than the rest of the movie. But that scene, you know, it's a rare Groucho Harpo Chico scene, sort of.
Yes,
maybe.
It's basically Tootsie Frutti with Harpo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
And so that leads us to A Night in Casablanca, which, while it doesn't have a full-scale Groucho Chico scene, does have a couple of short ones, which show that the magic is still there. Let's listen to both of them.
Anybody here for the Hotel Casablanca?
Here, boy, I'm going to the hotel.
They'll never let you in. Anybody?
Wait a minute, do they let you in?
Sure.
I'll put a stop to that. I'm the new manager.
You're the new manager? That's a fine.
Just come here with that bag.
The hotel sent me down to welcome you.
Just give me my valuables.
Don't worry, you can trust me.
I don't even trust me.
You're gonna like it, this job.
You buy? Nice.
Scram.
Cheap.
Scram and get out of here. You gotta be careful of those guys. They take you to the cleaners.
What about you?
I take you to the hotel.
Just what is your racket?
I got no racket. I'm making my living with camels.
What do you do with your camels?
They're taxi cabs. I'm a president of the Yellow Camel Company.
Aren't all the camels in Casablanca yellow?
Hey, you crazy. We got a checker camel company, too. Hey, look.
Must be expensive to operate.
Here you are.
So this is your wife, eh?
No, it's my camel.
You haven't got another stick of gum on you, have you?
Come on, I get you to the hotel. You're in danger. Your life is hanging by a thread.
So are my pants.
Yeah, but they're going to kill you.
How do you know?
It's all over the hotel. Everybody knows it but you.
I wish they'd tell me these things. I don't mind being killed, but I resent hearing it from a character whose head comes to a point.
A point, eh? Look, boss. Maybe they want to surprise you.
Well, I'd like to know how to dress.
You look fine. You're dressed to kill. But what you need is a good bodyguard.
What I need is a good body. The one I've got isn't worth guarding. By the way, since when are you a bodyguard? I thought you were in the camel business.
Oh, in the daytime, I'm in the camel business. At night, I'm a bodyguard.
I see. Well, suppose I get killed in the daytime?
Well, then I give you a free ride on my camel. Look, boss, I could keep you alive for 50 francs a week.
It isn't worth it.
Well, you can't take it with you.
Well, I'm not going to leave it laying around here.
But, boss, if I'm your bodyguard, I'll watch you like a mother watches a baby.
Is the mother pretty?
What's the difference?
Well, there's a lot of difference, but the mother's pretty. I'll watch the mother, and you can watch the baby.
So there's some good moments there, but it's basically just Chico setting Groucho up for some decent lines. There's not a whole lot of interaction there, but it's better than...
it's like the film, isn't it, really?
Circus.
Yeah, it's a bit better. It's a bit like a really good one.
And like Night in Casablanca in general, its success has to do with giving you a kind of quick fix of what feels like vintage Marx Brothers stuff, but not lingering long enough to show you that they're not quite there anymore. Whenever Night in Casablanca stays in one place too long, like Harpo's duel scene, it does start to get tedious and uncharacteristic and draggy. But these quick hits, it's like, oh yeah, okay, they've still got it. And all these moments feel like that to me.
And as Matthew has mentioned before, I think Chico really is the hardest brother to write for. And scenes like this are a perfect example.
He's the hardest one to write well for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's very, very easy to write badly, but this isn't bad by any means. It's good.
Right. But just to get that fine line between where's he coming from and getting the best of Groucho without demeaning Groucho or making himself look foolish, it's very tough. And like, they made it look so easy in the earlier films, but then later on we could see now it wasn't so easy.
I think like the rest of the film, there are no surprises in A Night in Casablanca. Nothing is new. Even the best stuff is very familiar. But obviously, when you look at where it comes in their career, that's more than what one might have hoped for.
Yeah, it has a very pleasant energy to it. Not the kind of forced manic energy of At the Circus and Go West, nor does it have this kind of dreary, obligatory lack of energy, like you might say that about Room Service, maybe some other later moments. Night in Casablanca is very good-natured, and they seem to be enjoying themselves.
So that leaves only the classic scene in Love Happy, which Matthew is going to set up for us now.
You've got me.
Come on. Chico's in Groucho's office. He's playing cards with a dog.
Go on, play it. Remind me. Oh, yeah, with the dog. Yeah, that is a good one.
It's not in the American print, so I've never seen it.
That's about it for their film career. We did get this little moment on the Inside Beverly Hills TV special.
Oh, yes.
Hey, you look like a fella who used to be my brother.
I don't think I got your name.
No, I got my name.
I think you're pulling my leg.
Yeah, just to get him even.
Well, would you mind helping me push this camera store around?
I'm sorry. I got to go to the golf course and lay down in the sand trap.
Sand trap?
Yeah, you see, it's a Sunday, and that's when I see my psychiatrist.
I'm sure I used to know him. If I'm not mistaken, we both had the same mother.
And that about does it. It's a shame that there's so little of them together after the mid-30s. For something that was much a mainstay of the act as the piano and harp solos, they pretty much abandoned it and never felt compelled to really give it another go. It would have been great to at least hear them, revisit some of the old classic routines on the radio in the 40s and maybe early TV, but I guess it was not to be.
It does seem like, although nobody would ever argue or should argue that the Marx Brothers would have been in any way better without Harpo, nevertheless, Groucho and Chico would have been a pretty viable two-man act by themselves, as they demonstrated in radio. And I think in the early days of my interest in the Marx Brothers, this is what really got me, the Groucho Chico stuff, because like the precocious child I was, this stuff is intensely verbal, relies on puns and wordplay a lot. This is kind of what hooked me into the Marx Brothers, Groucho and Chico's interplay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was going to say it right at the start of the show and forgot that, again, obviously I love Harpo and virtually everything he does, but if I had to pick one element of the films that I like more than anything else, it's these scenes. It's these Groucho Chico scenes, particularly the Kaufman-Riskind ones.
Well, we promised we'd give you our ranking, so Matthew, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us which ones are your favorites, or do you want to rank them all?
Well, I don't know if I can rank them all, but yeah, my favorites are the Kaufman and Riskin ones, and my favorite of all is the left-handed moths. I think that's superb. But Wire Duck and the contract scene are not far behind. Of the others, I think, although there's lovely jokes in Monkey Business and Duck Soup, I think the swordfish scene in Horse Feathers is so, as you say, so perfect and such a neat and tidy little thing. You can almost take it out like a tiny little film in its own right. So I think I'm going to go with Left-Handed Moths, Wire Duck, and Swordfish.
Noah?
Well, my feelings about these scenes are similar to Matthew's. I would rank in the number one spot the stuff near the beginning of Animal Crackers, Groucho and Chico's introduction to each other and rates for not playing and rehearsing. That might be among my very favorite exchanges in the whole Marx Brothers canon. And then in the number two spot, I would say Why a Duck. Number three, the contract scene in A Night at the Opera. Number four, the horse feathers password scene for the same reasons that Matthew cites and that we've all discussed earlier. Number five, I would put now the left-handed moths piece from Animal Crackers. Then Duck Soup, then Monkey Business, and from there it gets pretty bleak. I do think At the Circus is far worse than the Tootsie Fritzy scene.
Well, you've pretty much pilfered what I was going to say, Noah. So expect to hear from my lawyer in the morning. Jamison, take a letter.
My pleasure, Bob. Anytime.
So that about does it for this episode of the Marx Brothers Council Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next month with another stellar episode, or at least we'll say it is. In the meantime, thanks, guys, for taking part. And please, everybody, just go online and give us good reviews and spread the word, and follow us on Twitter. Join the Facebook group if Matthew will let you in.
Go to marxbrotherscouncilpodcast.com.
Oh, yes. The one that cost us a pretty penny to pin that one down. So please make it worth our while.
Hey, also, the holidays are coming up. For all the people close to you, everyone you love, the best gift you can give them is to recommend the Marx Brothers Council podcast. You don't have to buy them anything. You don't have to do anything for them. Just tell them to listen to our podcast.
No, the high holidays already passed. We're too late.
Every holiday is high for me, Bob.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Noah, why don't you introduce our closing song? It's a classic.
And here it is. A cup of coffee, a sandwich, and Bob.